Good morning,
How are
and
you today?
welcome to Mastermind Minutes. We put these things on here. I'm Gary Occhiogrosso. I am the managing partner for Franchise Growth Solutions, and you can learn more about Franchise Growth Solutions just by clicking the link above. Mastermind Minutes, this is where we share tips from experts in minutes, not hours. Usually it's one guest, one question, and typically under 10 minutes. Of course, you can always contact our guest afterwards for more information, and we'll give you all their contact information just at the end of our session here. Today, our guest is Michael Einbinder, who is a founding partner of Einbinder and Dunn. His law firm focuses on a range of key areas, including franchise law, commercial litigation, real estate law, business law, fashion law, which I never knew, and Michael and I have spoken in the past, and that never came up. Restaurant law, and also dealing with trusts and estates. He's a participating member of the American Bar Association Forum on Franchising, as well as the New York City Bar Association. So, Michael, good morning, and thank you for being with us today.
Good morning, Gary. How are you today?
I'm doing well if I remember to put my headphones on and stay in frame. And
Doing the best I can.
I'm a radio guy, so this is all different for me. But I am excited to say that after our third Mastermind Minutes session, we are now up to about 1,600 subscribers. So
Great.
That's flattering, and I'm very, very excited about that. Before I give you the one question, which I've written down here, why don't you tell us a little bit about your firm and what you do, in particular the different areas of your practice, because you guys do just like so many things.
Sure. We focus on franchise law, and franchise law relates to pretty much, or every other area of our practice pretty much relates to franchise law. So whether it's real estate or litigation or transactional work, everything we do in franchising touches everything else we do, and everything else we do touches franchising. So we represent a restaurant client, whether they're one or five operations, whether they're multi-unit or a franchisor who is growing their business, we can help them with real estate. If they're getting acquired by someone else, we can help them with the acquisition. If they want to acquire a franchise or a multi-unit group, we help them with that. If they want to do financing, we help them with that. And if there's a problem in a system, whether it's on the franchisor or franchisee side, we help with dispute resolution. So the area of practice, or the franchise area of practice, is broad-based, and we do all manner of work. For franchisors, for startup franchisors and emerging franchisors, we do a lot of work involving the regulatory scheme. We do FDDs, we revise FDDs, we review FDDs of existing franchise companies to see if there's improvement that we can bring to the table that will make their business more efficient, that will address new issues that come up in the law, or new issues that we see come up in our practice with some of our clients and with franchisees who we represent in disputes with franchisors. And the real estate side, it's everything. It's real estate, commercial retail real estate, acquisitions and sales. And in the corporate realm, we do everything from mergers to just shareholders agreements for small, closely held companies.
Wow, that's great. And what
fashion
I find,
law,
yeah, and fashion law. Okay, I'll remember that. What I really appreciate about what you and your team members do on the franchisee side. I'm typically on the franchisor side, and Michael and I have a mutual client on the franchisor side, and I'm always grateful to you and your team and how you help us through a lot of issues. What I really find interesting on the franchisee side is that if a franchisee is looking to purchase a franchise, that you guys can actually review the FDD, help them negotiate the franchise agreement, and then when they find a location, help them with the lease, set up their corporate entity. It's very convenient for a new entrepreneur who can go to one firm, one person, and get everything done in one place. That's very reassuring, because I speak with kind of startup entrepreneurs all the time, and that's one of the issues that they have. Okay, let's get into the question. So we're all sitting here waiting. Well, I'm not waiting. I'm not waiting for COVID to end. I mean, I'm still doing things. We're still dealing with clients. We're still launching franchise businesses, and I'm sure you folks are still doing what you're doing. But while we're waiting, kind of for the economy to open up here, what should franchisors or franchisees, or both, however you want to frame this, but what should they be thinking about or preparing for legally? And maybe we can touch on things like leases. What should they be looking at if they're kind of stuck in a lease or in limbo right now in a lease? I've had some clients call me about business interruption insurance, saying that their business interruption, their carrier is not covering this. What are things perhaps that can be built into a franchise agreement now that we know this sort of stuff exists? I know there's a lot there. Take it as you'd like.
Yeah. So Gary, as you know, we represent both franchisors and franchisees. So we're seeing the current crisis from both sides of it. We have a number of clients on the franchisee side. Most of them are retail, and most of them that are retail or restaurants. And a lot of the businesses that we represent are just closed. Nobody's operating. And so from both the franchisor and the franchisee perspective, we're helping our clients address issues with their landlord about whether or not they have to pay rent and how they can make the best possible deal that they need to make and what leverage they have or what legal rights they have. And while this would typically be a franchisee issue, we have a lot of franchisor clients who are coming to us to say, my franchise system needs help. I want to help my existing franchisees during this crisis. I want to talk to them about what it is that they can do or should do with their landlords to address the problems that they have regarding rent. So we have a client who has 350 to 400 franchises, all of them in malls. All of them are closed, every single one of them. They have 25 units of their own, and they have the rest of them are franchises in the States. They have a number of franchises overseas as well. And so what we've done for them is we've given them advice on what kind of rights they have vis-a-vis the landlords and the malls, and how they can help their franchisees. And so what we've done is we've ghostwritten letters for the franchisees on behalf of the franchisors to send to their franchisees, with a caveat that no one's providing legal advice to these people. Franchisees should get their own legal advice from their own counsel. But we've written letters that they can use to send to the malls. My client also has relationships with some of the bigger mall developers with 300 plus units all throughout the country. They have relationships that they can draw upon with Simon and Westfield and other large mall operators, so that they can hopefully leverage that relationship to do a better deal for their franchisees. But we've tried to help them deal with those issues. And some of the issues that we raise are, there are three basic principles that you can raise that relate to whether or not you have to pay rent. One of them is force majeure, which is an act of God. One of them is just the impracticability of operating a business during the course of this epidemic or pandemic. And the other one is just frustration of purpose. We entered into a lease for 10 years, and we're not going to be operating for 5 months out of that 10-month period, or whatever, a 10-year period, or whatever the term is. And we shouldn't have to pay rent. We have no revenue. We can't pay rent. And so what most people are doing is trying to make deals, but by communicating with their landlords, both from the perspective of having an enormous problem in terms of the financial aspects of it, as well as the legal issues. So hopefully leverage that into some sort of deal where you can get deferred rent and possibly a waiver of some of the rental during the really, really bad months. So that's one of the issues that we're dealing with.
So it sounds like there are options for franchisees, franchisors, small business people, that have a retail establishment with respect to rent and things that they may be able to do to, I'll use defer or waive, get rent.
Right.
So that's interesting. So go ahead, continue. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
No, there are other issues. I mean, we're dealing with all sorts of things about, for franchisors with respect to registration and sales. Most of the states have delayed the requirement for registration. So your past registrations don't have to be renewed immediately. The question is whether or not you can sell during this interim period, and I think there's a difference of opinion. My opinion, frankly, is that it's very difficult to sell during this period post, say, May 1st, when your document otherwise expires. It's just that you won't be restarting the process if you do it on June 1st or July 1st. So you're a renewal as opposed to a new franchise, or you're not letting anything lapse because the states have agreed to that. The other side of that coin is that some operators are taking the position that they can't file their FDDs. The state offices aren't open or aren't looking at documents or are too slow to do it, and they should be able to just continue to operate under their existing FDDs from 2019 until they're able to file a new FDD. So there's a question about that, but it's an issue that's certainly a concern for franchisors in this time frame. And of course, if you have 300 franchises and most of those franchises are closed, you have to do some sort of post registration kind of amendment to explain what's going on with your system. Mm-hmm. But one of the things that we've really found is that franchisors need to engage with their franchisees, and I hear this from both sides. Franchisors who are communicating with their Zs and talking to them about what they can do regarding rent, regarding reopening, regarding safety concerns when they do reopen, are both developing goodwill with their franchisees, which is critical at this point in time, as well as with the customer base. You want some consistency in the way that people are going to operate when they're open again. You want to have some game plan for how you're operating. I know of a franchisor in the gym space that's developing protocols for letting a certain number of people into their units at a time when they do reopen, so that they can maintain social distancing. I think it's just important to be proactive in how you deal with your system, both because you want to help them and because it helps you, because it continues to help develop a relationship that should be strong during this time of crisis.
Yeah, everything you say makes absolute sense. It's a great tip. I guess, one of the things that struck me while I'm listening to you is, the relationship needs to be maintained between franchisee and franchisor, because they have different issues, but together they can work through them. Additionally, and I'm a proponent of having a very positive attitude that what we're going through right now is temporary. I don't accept it, by the way, as the new norm, which I've heard. What I do believe is maybe beyond this, there will be some tweaks to how we operate, how we do things, kind of like how we had some things and we do things differently now at airports post 9/11.
Right.
But I guess to kind of cap it off, and certainly anyone listening can contact you directly. To cap it off, it sounds like we should be dealing with our legal counsel in a way that addresses the immediate issues right now in the circumstances, but looking to the future in how we're going to take some of this learning and bring it forward when the world reopens. Would that be fair?
Absolutely, Gary. I mean, I think that there are certain aspects of what's going on now that have to be addressed in your agreements going forward. Closures, whether or not, for example, a closure of 3 months extends the term for 3 months. Whether or not the renewal periods are extended. I mean, we've got people who've got franchisees whose agreements have expired, but they don't have an FDD to send or don't want to send an FDD under the circumstances. So we're extending periods of time, or we're stopping the clock on renewal periods to make sure that everyone has an understanding that this period of time is sort of a tolling period where nothing happens. Yeah. But we also have been addressing with a number of clients, usually we go through these cycles, Gary. You've been doing this for years. I've been doing this for years. The cycle is FDD, start your FDD, working on your FDD, the end of the calendar year, the beginning of the following, get your audited financials together, do your registration, then go off and sell. We have a 2-month period where a lot of that isn't happening. And what we are telling our franchisor clients is this may be a good time to take a deep dive into your agreements. And not only should you be looking at the things that relate to the problems that are associated with the emergency we're in right now, but also take a real look at the documents to see if there are places you can improve them. So we're talking to clients who normally don't have the time. They're just in such a rush every year, same period of time. You know what March is like. You know what April is like for franchise lawyers and franchisors rather, and for accountants. It's a crazy time. And we're all rushing to get FDDs filed by April 30th. Well, we have a little time right now. We've told some clients, let us look at your documents. Sometimes we've inherited franchise systems with clients who don't want to make wholesale changes in their documents, but now they're listening to us and saying, well, let's look at this clause. What do we do if X happens? How's my dispute resolution clause look? Should I fix that? What happens with franchisees? A really interesting issue, I think, probably not all that interesting, but interesting to me, is the franchisees who continue to operate after their agreement expires with the acquiescence of the franchisor, but without a new agreement, and whether or not their old agreement covers that period or not. So we've addressed that by adding a provision or two or three into the franchise agreements that covers the issue about whether or not, if you continue to operate and we give you authority and you haven't signed a new agreement yet, that's a month-to-month franchise agreement, and what your rights are and what your remedies are and what their rights are and what their remedies are. So we're trying to address these issues now when people have time to think about it and make some reasoned decisions. And lawyers, truthfully have a little time, because I'm incredibly busy, but it's not, there is time to get this kind of work done and fix people's franchise agreements and make their FDDs and agreements much better.
Well, I agree with you, and we're doing that right now. I've actually done that with one of my clients, working with one of your associates. Michael, there's a lot here. There's a lot to think about. There's a lot that franchisors and franchisees can be doing to help themselves as the economy reopens. How can people get in touch with you and your firm? What's the best way to do that?
Well, the firm is Einbinder and Dunn. You can find us at ed-lawfirm.com. On the initials, ed-lawfirm.com. My email address is my initials, me@ed-lawfirm.com. And just communicate with me via email, and I'll get in touch with you as quickly as I can after that.
Terrific, terrific. And we amplify this broadcast on LinkedIn. It's also on the Franchise Growth Solutions website, as well as a video cast in our online magazine, franchisemoneymaker.com. So we'll post your website and we'll post contact info. Thank you very much for being with us today. Insightful, great stuff, a lot to know. And I urge those of you who are out there, contact Michael, and I'm sure he can help you through the process. Michael, again, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
You're welcome, Gary. Thank you.